Hey guys, how are you doing? This is Ed from Zed Outdoors. I hope you're having an awesome day. So I'm with the delightful Jill Swan. Jill, how are you doing?
Hello Zed, I'm very well, thank you.
Right, so a quick backdrop. If you haven't seen already, I've put a video out of my spoon carving workshop with the delightful Jill. Jill, I just call you Jin?
Yeah, well...
I think we have plenty of that as well. But anyway, so with the delightful Jill, we're in Kent in the southeast part of the United Kingdom. If you haven't already seen, I put out a video of a spoon carving workshop I've attended. Now this is within that same course, so what I've done is Jill has very kindly taken some time out, and we're now going to do a video for you which is a beginner's guide to spoon carving. Now just to kind of stress something here, spoon carving is in itself was obviously a very big skill, and you can go really deep with it. What this video is really designed for is people like myself, haven't attended this course, who are completely new. So there's a lot of you guys that I know just are thinking about carving a spoon, and the way I'm looking at it is you guys are out in the sticks, you're doing a wild camp or whatever, and you feel like carving a spoon. So I think some pointers from obviously a professional as to kind of the start to finish. So for some of you it might be a lot of stuff that you already know. This is really designed for those of you that haven't done it before or have done it but you're not sure of the exact steps involved. So what we're going to do now, I'm going to jump behind the camera now, and we're just going to go straight into it. We're going to talk through obviously the tools that you need, the start to finish. Now obviously appreciate, to carve a spoon from start to finish, it takes a little bit of time. So we're not going to show every single step in absolute precise detail, otherwise we'll be here for like 2 hours. But what I want to do, ideally, I want to be in a position where we can really at least touch on all the elements throughout. So I'm not sure if we're necessarily going to get a finished spoon by the end of it, which is going to be absolutely pristine. But obviously, the key thing here is that you get the points across, So what you do, if you give us a second, we'll jump straight behind the camera. Okay, Jill, so in order to kind of kick things off,
yeah.
What do you think is the best thing to cover first? Is it the tools that are needed?
No, I think it's the wood we're going to use.
Okay.
Because a lot of people struggle with selecting a piece of wood. There are probably 3 things to remember. One, it's got to be fresh cut wood, and 2, it's got to be fresh cut wood. One of those things. Dry wood that's seasoned is very difficult to work. It doesn't split properly or as you would want it to, and it's hard on your hands. So if you can get a piece of wood from a tree surgeon or out of something in the garden, you'll be surprised how many trees there are in people's gardens. Or if you're out in the wild, be sensible and select a small piece of wood. B, you don't need a huge piece of wood. People come with tree trunks. You don't need it. This branch is what I've selected. We took this tree down a couple of weeks ago because it blew over in the wind and was leaning dangerously, so we whipped it off. It's silver birch. The type of wood you use, you can use virtually any type of wood. Generally speaking, birch, which is very common, it's fast growing, it's sustainable, and it's easy to cut. It's probably the best for beginners. Willow is also very good if you're just trying to get a quick spoon out of the woods. Don't start climbing oak trees. You'll just make hard work for yourself. Just
very quickly touch on a couple of things then, Jill. What do you define as fresh wood?
This piece of wood still got live leaves on it. Look at this end. That's still growing, and that's as fresh. I like it so fresh that when the knife goes in, the sap's still running out.
Okay.
As fresh as possible. You could probably use a larger piece of wood up to 6 months if it's kept in the dark in a damp place. But wood dries out like anything else. It dries from the ends inwards, and an oak tree would probably dry 1 inch a year. Very slowly for a huge tree. You touched on a tip, didn't you, about putting it into a freezer and then... Yeah, if you've got a small piece of wood and you haven't got time to carve it, you can put it in a Ziploc bag so the moisture's kept inside the wood, and you can pop it in the freezer and it'll last in the freezer for up to 6 months. If you've got a chest freezer, obviously you can get more wood into it, but it's so important to keep the wood fresh. Because once it's gone hard, it's only good for the fire. It's just too hard to carve by hand.
Excellent stuff. So now that we have the fresh wood in place, what's the next thing we're going to do?
Right, I'm going to look along this branch and see which bit I want to make a spoon out of. Obviously there are areas like this and this which we're not gonna have much fun trying to make a spoon where there's a knot growing. All of these little marks are kind of no-go areas. You can use them in certain situations, but as we're just trying to make a quick spoon, we want a clean, simple piece of wood. I think I'm going to take this section out here, below this branch here, straight across there and straight across there, and that's going to be our little eating spoon because it's wide, there's plenty of good wood on it, and it's smooth.
So, for example, let's say you have an idea on the length of the spoon you want. How much either way do you cut?
I would cut ½ an inch longer than the length of the spoon you want. You need to think about the design of your spoon whilst you're looking at the tree. If you want a ladle, you're going to go for this piece. Try and get the ladle in the bowl here, but that's a whole other video. Yeah, we're just trying to make an eating spoon with minimum tools in the quickest time and a straight, clean, trouble-free piece of wood like that, that's fresh. This is fresh, it's 2 weeks old. It's absolutely perfect, this piece here. Got a folding saw, little Japanese folding saw. It's a pull saw and very, very useful. I always carry it in the car in case I see a fallen tree.
Just to touch on 1 second, no one's peeing in the background. It's just it's raining, the good old British weather, so we've got the tarp covering. So you'll have to excuse the noise in terms of the rain, but we'll persevere through it. So sorry, Jill. So with the saw, you've got a Japanese one. So do I assume like the backhoe, which is quite common with a lot of the guys that I know?
A pruning saw from the garden centre will do the trick. You can take out you can buy a saw for £12 in B&Q that'll do the same job, but it's a little bit larger to carry. This is perfect. I can get it in my handbag.
Excellent stuff. No, but I'll put it in my handbag as well too. So with all my makeup. Right. So what we're going to do? So we're going to now go ahead and cut. Are there a couple of tips and suggestions when cutting?
Well, this is a pull saw. So my tips for sawing are: don't put any pressure on. Just concentrate on moving the saw backwards and forwards. I'm not pushing down. I've got my finger along the top to keep it straight. And it's laborious, but as long as you don't twist it and go mad, you know, it's keeping up a rhythm rather than putting any kind of downward pressure on. It's a little bit worn, this saw, and just as it starts to cut through, you need to hold it up, because otherwise the wood will pinch on the saw and the saw will stop. So the heavier the piece of wood, the more problems you have sawing a piece off, unless of course there are two of you to hold it down.
So guys, what we'll do then, I'm going to pause this footage for a second. We'll come back in a second when it's all cut. Okay, so now...
Right, what we have here is the reason the tree fell down. There's a bit of rot inside, and here's the other part we cut off. You can see that colour goes all the way through, and there's some soft, that's very soft, that piece of wood, which is part of the reason this tree will make good spoon fodder, is that it's not being wasted on something else. If you look here, you've got the pith, and the rot starts from the pith. So we're going to have to cut this whole half of the wood off. You don't want to use the pith in a spoon, because the wood always splits from the pith outwards. So we need to eliminate half this piece of wood, which, because we're in the bush, so to speak, we're going to use an axe for. I've got my little Gransfors Brooks axe, which is covered in rainwater. It's one of the smallest wildlife hatchets you can get, and made in Sweden, about 50 quid-ish from various online retailers, and it's a wonderful, wonderful axe. It's all you need, really. Although I wouldn't go chopping firewood with it. It's my sort of spoon axe.
So this is specific for the carving and...
Yeah, and one thing that people do is when they're splitting a piece of wood, don't use a hammer. Don't use a metal hammer on this. I know it's tempting if you haven't got anything else, but it really will ruin. If you hammer and hammer on the piece of wood like that, you'll ruin the whole stock and the handle fall off. So it's just not worth disrespecting your tools. This comes with a case, and I keep it in the case because the edge, if it touches another tool, will blunt very easily. You know, it's a hardened steel and it chips almost like glass in a way. So I've got a little mallet here. You can obviously use a piece of wood. This is just a mallet that we made with a saw and an axe. And we're going to put the axe across there like that, right across the pith, because we need to eliminate the pith from this. And I'm going to give it a sharp tap with the mallet. Woo! And here we have our good piece of wood, and here we have our bad piece of wood. And just for your information, if we split down here, there, you've got the reason for the tree dying. There's some kind of wood boring beetle has been living in there. Could be a wood wasp of some sort. It's been eating flies, and that'll eventually kill the tree. Although that's very pretty, but it's soft. This piece of wood it's not so great. So I'm not going to use it, although it's pretty. That's for the wood pile.
Excellent stuff.
Right, this is the piece we are going to use, and I'm going to come in. I'm not going to draw on it. I'm just going to use, because we're outside, I haven't got time to mess about, so I'm just going to start using it. It's pretty much flat and straight. I've got to make a decision of what end I want to put the bowl in.
So how would you decide that? What are the factors that you're looking at?
With a piece of wood like this, there aren't any.
Okay.
To be honest with you, I mean, sometimes you have a natural slope in the wood, and a bit looks more, you can almost see the bowl there, or the wood curves upwards and things like that. But on this, there's really, I mean, possibly this piece would be useful, this slightly higher edge, but really there's very little in it.
One quick thing you did mention on the course is you talked about carving from either end to get different effects.
Yeah. Well, with a piece of wood like this, you haven't got a huge amount of choice. But if you had a larger piece of wood and you carved in from this side, you'd get a stripy finish to your spoon. The lines would just run like that along the spoon. All these growth rings, you'd see them as stripes along the length of the spoon. If you carve in like this, you can get concentric circles in the bowl of the spoon. As the knife comes down through the pith, you can see that these form circles as you dig down. So that's my personal preference. Some people say that those spoons are weaker. I've never seen any evidence of that. So I'm going to make the bowl of my spoon here, and I'm going to make the handle at this end, like that. So once I can see that in my mind's eye, I'm just going to have a little chop at it with the axe, so that I'm reminded of what I'm going to do. And the first thing I'm going to do is take off the bits I don't want.
So are there any techniques in terms of holding the axe and positioning of the wood?
If you keep the axe going straight and tip the wood over to get the angles. Don't hold the wood like that and hit it like that. That's wrong and probably dangerous. I've put one leg forward and one leg slightly back in case there is some accident. And it also brings me down a little bit lower because this block is quite low and you may be having to kneel. So this leg back, just in case something goes wrong and you miss. My personal advice is don't ever take your eyes off what you're doing. You can hold the axe really close behind the head, and you can put your finger on the blade to stop you, to help with accuracy, and to stop you hitting it too hard. We're not you know, felling trees here. We're just making a little spoon. So we need to be quite delicate.
So what's your aim of what you're trying to do now? Is it to remove the bark?
I'm removing the sides of the, I'm not going to take the bark off yet. I'm going to remove the sides of the handle so that I know that my bowl is at this end and my handle is at this end. So when I can see that, I'll know.
So what's the technique you're doing here? You're chopping into it bit by bit, bit by bit?
Yeah, taking little chunks out, and this just helps with the splitting. It helps in a controlled way, rather than hacking into the wood, putting all the pressure in one area and possibly taking off too much. Doing it this way, you put a series of cuts in, and then they all come off quite orderly. You can bend the knife out, bend the axe out like that to split smaller bits off. We don't necessarily need to do here. And again, along the side and down, turn it over, along the side and down. So now we're getting already, you know, very primitive, but you can see that we've got a spoon shape. Right, there's a rough, that's very rough, but there you go. I'm going to shape the ends, as we don't need those bits on. And I'm going to have a go at the bowl. We'll start taking the bowl out now. So straight through the bark. Like that. And that's probably the size that we need. Really, if this is going to be an eating spoon, I don't need that bowl to be any larger than that.
You were talking about a third in terms of measurement, weren't you?
Yeah, there's a proportion with if you're carving a spoon for aesthetic reasons, that you've got a third bowl, a third neck and a third handle. So the bowl is generally 1/3 of the length of the spoon, that's about right. Maybe a little bit short, maybe there to there to there. So the bowl would be here, and you've got the width of the bowl should be twice the width of the handle. So if you imagine a line running down here, you've got that much either side. So that's roughly it. If I take all this is waste now, all these extra bits. It's just a matter of using the axe. We're going to use the axe to form 90% of the spoon, so it's just a matter of chopping away in an orderly fashion and trying to keep it symmetrical.
Excellent stuff.
So what we don't need is any of this. Again, using this, cutting little feathers off, just to save chopping too much off. Same on the other side, cutting little feathers off. And you can do little bump cuts like that. That's called a bump cut. And once you've got your axe in position and you want to make a kind of slightly precise little trim, you just put your axe in and drop the whole thing down using the weight of the axe. This also saves your hands a little bit, because it's quite tough on your hands, all this. A bit more in here. I want the handle to be quite small, narrow, early on. Just gently down. Don't have to go mad. You know, we're not putting on so much pressure that it's more gripping holding the spoon. I'm putting quite a bit of pressure on the spoon. Quite often the axe gets stuck in, and when you lift the axe up, it drags the spoon with it. So it's quite, you know, I'm putting quite a bit of downward force on, and I'm being very careful not to chop up here. I'm chopping a third of the way down to keep my hands out of the line of fire. When you do, you know, we don't want to cut ourselves. We really don't. Not especially not if we're outside, miles away from anywhere. Okay, so the next thing is, this handle is obviously humongous, and I don't want it that size, so the same cut again. We're going to come in at the back. The back of the bowl is here, so I don't need anything much beyond that. So I'm going to take that down, come back, take that down like that. Watching, trying to keep it, we're still trying to keep it square at this stage, and that just helps with the design. You don't want to start rounding it off. That's the stage we do with the knife. I'm trying to keep it, everything's square, level and straight, and obviously as straight as it can be with a piece of wood out of a tree. But it's handy for yourself to just keep it. And again, I've still got too much on here. You'd be surprised how much you can take off. That's getting more like it. We've still got far too much weight here as well. So I'm just going to come down and just get this out straight away. A lot of beginners take a spoon more like a bucket. It's not a huge vessel. It's actually a very shallow little, device, and it will work. If you look at any spoon out of the kitchen, measure that depth, you've got probably less than 1/4 of an inch, or less than 1 centimetre deep. So we don't have to have an enormous amount of wood here at all to make this work as a spoon. It'll get its integral strength as it dries. Now I've still got more weight here. This is all unnecessary. So I'm going to take this out diagonally and take the back of the spoon now into a triangle, because we don't need a square back of our spoon. And it'll be easier to hold or carve into a round if it's smaller, like so. And now we start getting a, you can start to see it's forming as a spoon. It's got a little slight curve here in the front face that's going to make it quite nice to use.
Okay, Jill, so we're just going to take reflection, not on life, but on the spoon.
Right, I said I wasn't going to use a pencil, but I think for illustration purposes I really ought to. If you've got one, it can make things very much easier. Roughly mark the centre of your spoon, which is there. Doesn't have to be all the way to the end, we know how wide it is there. And we're going to just draw the bowl in. Now what I've got is an oblique angle here. I could straighten that off, but as I'm left-handed, that probably won't do me any harm to leave it there. And we're just going to draw an egg shape. You can draw around a coin. You could draw around a £2 coin and then elongate it slightly. If you don't feel confident drawing, you can draw around something completely round if you want a round spoon. I think the main skill is just draw something that is not too big, not too ambitious. Remembering this is going to be quite shallow. I mean, that's following the lines of the wood, so we're going to have a rustic spoon here that's going to just do its own thing. It's coming it's coming in a curve like that and going off down there. So I think for this video we don't need to have it all perpendicular. If you want to make it perpendicular, you can. I'm just can't be bothered to saw the end of that spoon off, basically. This is a fresh cut. So we've got no worries about being close to the edge. If this was a dry piece of wood, I would suggest that you leave a bit on the end, because it takes quite a hammering, this tip, as we chop down onto it. It can sometimes split at this stage. I don't think this piece of wood's going to, because it's so fresh, and it's that lovely birch that doesn't split. So yeah, there's the bowl of my spoon, and I'm now going to chop the sides away. I'm going to come down to here and chop the sides away, so that we can start the next process, which is the knife work. So here we go with a little bit more axe work, and being perpendicular is quite a good idea at this stage. This is where it can get interesting. I'm going to come down to the sides with my hand right on the choke there, right on the choke, and finger down, which helps guide me. And just gently, gently, gently. We're not hacking away, we're just chipping gently. There, that'll do. That's one side done. The other side is going to be hard for you to see, because I've got to turn it around towards me. But I'm sure we can get in there somehow. There's a little bit of colour there. I don't think that's... No, it's just a bit of colour. I don't think it's anything major to worry about.
And this is the thing, isn't it? As you're working through the wood, you will come across stuff that's unexpected.
Yeah, I've had to throw spoons away after 6 hours work, because you come across something that just all falls out. Most upsetting. So there's that part of our spoon. I need to take this piece off. The grain of the wood, I've got to go this way. I've got to go that way at this point. But when I start coming back in, I have to turn the spoon over and work this way, because I can't. If I put the axe in here and start chopping downwards, there's a very good chance the split will just run that way and go into the bowl. So it's very important that you don't chop at this point towards your bowl. If you notice, I'm always chopping away, because of the fibres in the wood run parallel to each other, and if you get the axe in the wrong place, they will just open up. As you saw when we split the wood in the beginning, it just pops apart. So chopping this way is an absolute no-no. You can often feel it. You put the axe in and you think, oh dear, that's gone in, you know, rather than flaking a piece of wood off. It sinks in, and a split there will just come straight across and go into the bowl. So when you've got to this high point, the high point of the spoon, you have to start moving that way. I hope that explains it. It's a way of feeling. I mean, if you get an axe and fiddle with the firewood pile, you'll soon see what I mean. Just taking that round to my little line there, and away we go. This side. I mean, if we were in the workshop, I'd make safety cuts, but because we're out in the bush, we're just going to chop this, do it the quick way.
Just for those that don't know, what are safety cuts?
They're 2 saw cuts that you make. You draw your handle in here, so your handle's going to be right in there. You make a cut there, and a cut there, and you make a cut there, and a cut there that runs right across the spoon.
So you turn it onto its side and you just saw through?
Yeah. You turn it like this, and you saw through there, and you saw through there. And you saw them through to just the right depth. You only come down, what's that, 0.8 of a centimetre, perpendicular to the front of the spoon, and then you work that way you chop down that way, and when you meet the cut, the piece of wood just falls off neatly.
Gotcha.
And you save damaging this rather delicate area of the spoon, which we have to be careful not to ruin.
Do you know what? Would it be okay, because we've got the sword, to maybe just do one side with a safety cut? Would that be okay? Because
absolutely.
I think if the guys can see it being done.
Yeah, we'll do a safety cut.
Right,
Okay, let's just stick this in here. One there. You can see better than me, Zed, when to stop.
So, 1 second. Bit more. Bit more. Bit more. That's it.
And this one. Start the saw off really gently, and then you can put give it some welly.
Keep going. Bit more. Bit more. Stop.
Okay, so there we have a little safety cut, and you simply get your spoon, you get your knife, axe in the top, and you give it that little bump cut. And it just drops off there.
Gotcha. So literally that just stops there where the cut is.
So there, I can't get it wrong. I can't damage the bowl, the back of the bowl of the spoon. And what the cleverness of this little cut is that when you get down, I mean that's pretty much it. It's in. That's the end of that. You just give it another tap.
I see this fell off.
And that's the next bit off. And I haven't damaged that bit of spoon. If it splinters open, we'll be in trouble. And you can do this. I mean, now I've got that, I can cut this way with the axe, but it's a little more awkward, and it's a tiny bit dangerous because I'm holding the axe very close to my fingers. Come in like that, and then come down this way. See all those splits?
Yep.
They would run into the bowl if I wasn't careful, so I can only take it that far. Again, a little bit more down to there. And back again, so I'm going with the grain. Very, very gingerly, not to cut there. I can't tell you how many times my students knock this piece off, just being over enthusiastic. And I've done it myself too, I do it regularly. There. So that's two ways of doing it. This little piece that's excess, we can just trim that way. Ah, there goes the rain again. He said, do you have to wee whilst I'm working?
Do you know what? I'm sorry, I just couldn't hold it in. It's all that tea in the morning.
And the knife can take care of the rest of that, I think. So there we have it. Now we still have far too much weight here. Obviously all this is surplus to requirements, so this can all come off. This is not particularly, yeah, this should come off just straight. Still more. You'd be surprised how shallow a spoon needs to be. I mean, it looks like there's a lot of waste coming off this, but this tree was damaged anyway, and the rest can go into the Kelly kettle, so it's not a huge...
Man, that Kelly kettle was awesome, man.
Yeah, bless it.
So
we've got the rough, I mean, that's it very roughly. A little bit of edge off there, that can come off. I think the rest we could probably do with the knife. I might take a bit more off the back actually. Just start to round the bowl. Yeah, and you just, you know, it's how far you dare go with an axe. Really, a lot of people put the axe down too soon. They don't realise how close they can go, and a lot of people can take their axe work and almost form the whole spoon. entirely with the axe. I like to sit down with a knife, so I tend to leave a lot of work for myself because I love using the knife. It's personal. Again, you know, there are no hard and fast rules. These are just different ways of doing things.
Apologies if this video is getting long, guys. It's just that I'd rather show the entire process from start to finish, not leaving anything out.
Yeah, I think we can go onto the knife. I'm going to go onto the knife now.
Okay, so now going to the knife work.
So we're going to have our bowl. It's going to be here, as we said. And it's always worth redrawing a little bit. You might find a bit you've overlooked. I might have to get this bark off and work on this. I can't quite see exactly what I'm doing. There's the centre line there. We're going to have a slight curve in the whole thing because the wood's naturally curved and I like curves. I'm going to leave the bark on the handle because if that's my preference. So taking our principle of a third, we've got a third bowl, a third neck and a third handle. So this point is where the neck will come down slightly. We don't have to go mad because after all this is a sort of jungle spoon, emergency spoon.
To fight off the zombies.
Yeah, if we ever have, maybe we could sell them to zombies.
That's actually a good niche though.
They probably like that sort of thing. And the other side as well, you know, just take that little bit out there. So I'm going to start with my Mora 106.
So a quick question with this, right? Could you still use something like the companion, you know, the clipper?
You can. I think most people who use a Mora will stick with it. It's a dedicated wood carving knife. I take I've got a Halter Force craft knife, that orange plastic handle one, and I take that out, and that does all my cutting if I'm cutting food or, you know, rope. But for wood carving, you can't beat this, and they're 17, 18 quid. You can sometimes get them for 15.
So it's a Mora 106. Yeah?
Mora 106. There's your label. You could even scan the barcode.
Oh, 1 second, let me try and get this in a shot. It's not happening, is it? I'll get it with you and I'll get it in the end. Oh, anyway, it's Mora 106. It's sort of focusing. Okay, so there you go.
Lovely, long, very sharp Scandi grind. Actually, this is brand spankers. This one, I buy them some, 10 at a time for my students. So we're going to quickly shape a bit of this spoon. I need to get some weight off it here, and I'm going to use, I'm left-handed, obviously this may confuse people, but if you think of a mirror image, press it against your sternum.
Right, if you just pause here for a second, I went on a solo camp about a week and a half ago, and I was doing this this move that you're doing now, and people in a very nice way were saying, no, you don't do that.
Don't cut towards yourself. Yeah, bless them. That's for children. That's what you tell children. If you keep your elbows in, right, press your elbows into your side, it's virtually impossible. I would have to really go mad to cut myself.
Yeah.
It's very, very difficult to cut yourself. If you watch what you're doing, if you keep your eyes down and watch what you're doing, don't chat to your friends or look out the window. Keep your eyes on the knife. Hold it in a safe, strong grip. I mean, that is a good, it's a good knife. And I've got my other hand forming a little push, and I can use my arm as a brake. So this is kind of locked. My wrist is locked, and I can't stab myself. I can't. Yeah. Sounds like famous last words.
We get it on camera.
Yeah. Exactly.
But I don't mean as a note. I really appreciate you guys being considerate with that. But it was an actual move that I got taught. I think it didn't come out well when I was doing it.
People have said to me, "Oh, never use the knife towards yourself." Of course you have to. Of course you have to. There's all these things, and you'd have to be some sort of cretin to stab yourself, as far as I'm concerned. I've never stabbed myself yet. all my years of spoon carving.
So what are you doing now? You just talked
I'm
through
just-
so you shaping the bowl.
Yeah, shaping the bowl, following my pencil line, and I just want to get rid of this little bit of pith at the top, and I want to keep a nice perpendicular edge, and just to get that bit of pith off there, like that, and I want to keep it clean to the neck too. So we're just cleaning up the edge, and this way, you know, I was talking to you about the high point and the wood grain. This is the high point of the bowl. Obviously, you know, this is the tip of the bowl, so the knife has to come away from it, come down. If you think of it as a clock face, and then this is, you know, 9 to 12, and it has the knife has to move up the wood.
So with the way you're holding the knife here, do you want to explain? So you're just pushing one thumb behind the other. And
it just gives me extra control. It gives me strength, so I'm not heaving like this, trying to get it off with the knife flying away from me. By keeping my elbows into my side, using my other thumb, I've got twice the power. I've got the power of 2 hands, making a very controlled and short cut. And I can use my left hand as a brake and push with my right thumb, which is why I've got these huge muscles in my hand, my wood carving muscles, that come up like enormous things from doing that. And here, you know, I've got my thumb on it. I mean, that's very dangerous, putting your hand towards the thumb. So I put my thumb round the other side, so the wood is in the way. I can't cut my thumb because I can't get my knife through that piece of wood. So I can just come round gently in a slicing motion. You know, if you move the knife along as well, see how I'm slicing it along, not just brute forcing it in like that, but moving it along at an angle. And don't try and take great big lumps off. Just do it gently and take little bits off. Keep your thumb away, and you can go all the way around that pencil line, leaving a nice little perpendicular edge, so that we've got an edge to work on, and we know where the tip of our spoon is, we know where the sides of it are. This piece, I need to cut that way, because again, it's my halfway point. I can take a little bit more off there. And then here, again, I've got the spoon, I've got my finger under this bowl there. It's a matter of, and I can't hurt myself. The knife can only go down to the floor. I'm not going to stab my leg because I'd have to lift my arm up. Because my elbows are in, my movements are restricted very much. You do have to watch the tip of these knives. They're extremely sharp, and you know, if you get it too close, you can get yourself in trouble. But you keep your eyes on it and think all the time, well, how close is the tip of that knife to my finger? It's not actually close. Yeah, a miss is as good as a mile. Oh, I've carved that wrong. Look at that. Made it go wobbly. Right, I'm going to have to redraw that because I've been demonstrating. And this side might have to come in. Do you know what? I don't like that being curvy anymore now. I'm going to change the shape of it. Take that bit off.
So what's that move you're doing there, the cross?
This is the scissor grip, or the chicken grip, people call it various things. You hold your spoon, it's for removing larger pieces of wood, when you want to put some real power. Some people call it the power cut, I think, but basically you hold it across your chest, and one hand holds the spoon firmly and the other hand holds the knife in this position. So we're holding the knife that way, and it's elbows out, and you just move your elbows in, and you can remove quite a large piece of wood from that. Yeah, it's not hugely, I'll do it. And here again, I'm coming down to this cut. I'm resting it on the bench, pushing down. I'm perfectly safe. I can't cut myself. Chest grip. Elbows in. Gently up to that stop there. And you have to keep working backwards and forwards to remove little bits. We need to take a lot more off here. It only needs to be shallow. I'm going to take a lot off because I don't want a great big deep spoon. I want a little eater.
So you're constantly checking,
Yeah.
picking it up, having a look,
Yeah.
getting the contours correct.
Yeah, I mean, it's what I'm finding it difficult to demonstrate cuts and talk about it and concentrate on the shape actually. But yeah, it's a matter of looking along it. You know, basically, you know, you want it level all the way to the end, and with a bit of aesthetic sensibility at the side. See, it's got the sort of top. And we were going to put the little crank in here, which we haven't done yet, but there's still far too much weight here, so I'm gonna take that out. But we just don't need it. Needs to come up like this and go up that way. So this is all surplus to requirements. And some people work to a much more orderly, you know. I often, if I'm teaching, I get people to form this view of the spoon first, and they get it perfectly round, the bowl goes all the way down, then they draw on the side. But it's a matter of personal preference. I know people who take their billet, their raw piece of wood, and they carve the hole there, they carve the bowl, and they draw the handle in, and then they work away at the back, and they feel that if they've got the bowl formed first, it's easier to carve the back to meet the bowl than it is to carve the bowl to meet the back. So you know, there are many different ways of skinning a cat, but this is my way. This part of the spoon, the neck of the spoon.
So you take the bark off, yeah?
Yeah, just because I want this to come down a little bit. It's just a little thing of design that I do. And that's just cleaned it off, and it gives it a nice contrast between the handle where I'm going to leave the bark on. It may fall off, it may not, but it doesn't really matter. And now I'm going to shape this spoon. I'd like it to be a little bit more shaped here, like that. And although this may look narrow to you, it's got a lot of depth here, which is going to give it some integral strength. The narrower you have this, the deeper you have this. But also for a birch eating spoon, it's never really going to get any major stresses on it. It's not like we're building a boat. We're just making a little spoon. So again, backwards and forwards, you can see the fibres. And you get to the bottom here. This is a bit that people often struggle with. This directional thing. They carve here, and they find that this little bit of fibre is poking up. So they carve it this way, and they find that now there's another bit of fibre poking up, and that this will happen as long as the wood is green. My advice is just ignore these little bits of fibre that poke up. When the spoon is dry, you can cut them off very easily.
Oh, because I was finding that myself in my spoon.
Yeah, don't worry about it. People pick at the neck because the fibres keep coming up, and they carve the spoon down to nothing here. So they've got a great heavy bowl, and they've got no. Take a little bit more off there. I want it to go to V at the back. Other side. Again, watching what I'm doing. Thumb pushing the hand that's holding the knife. Nice and controlled. And this way, towards me. I've got my thumb on my hand again, which is acting as a little brake, so I'm not out of control. I'm using the tip of the knife. This is the beauty of the Mora 106, is the tip of the knife will cut a very tight corner, and you can cut straight in there as a tight corner. Trim that little bit off. And you can't do that with a great big thick blade. With a knife that's got a blade like this and then just goes around a big curve at the end, you won't get around the bends. And that's the beauty. You can really turn it. See, I'm turning the whole blade to take a little shaving out there, that little area. So we're starting to get a little bit more delicate. You know, still got a way to go, but it's looking like a spoon. And I still think it's too deep. I still think we can have a bit off the back here, which you're just going to get down to.
Okay, so what we've decided to do, because obviously it's going to take a while to kind of finish off the actual the carving part of it, you know, kind of the whole structure. So what we're going to do now, the principle is still the same, isn't it? To basically finish it off then, Jill.
Yeah, the finishing off is just carving away the bits you don't like the look of. But what's the crux of the matter for this tutorial purposes is the bowl. Now, I'm going to show you how to use a gouge. This is not an approved spoon carving tool. It's an old gouge. It's probably my father's, and you can find them in boot fairs, and you can find them in online antique tool sites, and it's sharpened to a fairly good degree. If you haven't got a spoon knife and you don't know if you're going to enjoy spoon carving, this is a great way to go, because you should be able to pick one up for between £5 and £10. This is a number 7. It says prize medals on it. I don't know what that means. Here's another little one. This is a 6. I think this is an Ashley Isles, although it's got no name on it. And you'll find, if you look on eBay or on online sites, you'll find something like this. Sharpening it's mildly tricky. You have to just keep going until you've got a really good, sharp, shiny edge on the front. But like I say, sharpening's another matter. And oddly, you don't hold it on the handle for this. You can just hold it like this, so that you're very close to the bowl, and you hold the spoon in the other hand like this.
And the key thing being here, you've got a complete grip on everything. Yeah,
you've got obviously, again, my muscles here are tensed, and my feet are braced on the ground, so that I'm kind of making a vice, a body vice, so that everything is concentrating on it. I'm thinking of the risks of where I'm going to hurt myself, and the worst thing I can do is stab myself in the jugular, in the main vein here. But because this arm is again tucked in, locked in, elbows right tucked in there, I can't hurt myself. And what you do is you just push it in and bring it out in a little sweep. I'm not taking a lot. I'm not taking a lot of wood out. I'm working all the way along. Hold it into position. And I can't do too much harm because my hand is so close to the spoon that it's stopping the chisel running away. Up to the little line, and just a little bit. Look how tiny these shavings are. They're like toenail clippings. We don't need to, we're not digging holes here. We're just gently making a curved spoon like that. I don't know if some people say, oh, that looks really uncomfortable, but if you haven't got a spoon knife or a tracker cam or scorp or a crooked blade, or however you want to call it, this can start you off without all that.
So in order to get the other side, you just kind of adjust the...
Yeah, you just have to adjust the grip and come down the other side. Again, yeah, people may think this looks difficult because I'm left-handed. That's a little bit splitty there. Doesn't quite want to know. But just to get the first bits out. And see how I'm not going over my pencil line? I'm keeping this edge. The rim is always kept as a... there. And so now we've got that much out, we can just do it again, little sweeps, until we've got our little bolt spoon, and a little bit untidy at the end there. You shouldn't really go, you can go, this, I'm going into the grain now, which is not the best way to do it, because you can often dig in, you know, with this grain business where you have to keep changing direction. So once I've dug in there and I've got lots of bits of grain that don't want to drop off, so I can trim them off with a cross sweep. And you just keep doing this until you've got your spoon bowl, and then you would wait for this to dry when you've got it as good as you can get it. And again, depending on how sharp your chisel is, I might try this one. So a friend of mine sharpened this, so I don't know what it's like. Oh yeah, see, this is a nicer cut because he's done a good job of sharpening the chisel, and it really is dependent on how sharp your chisel is.
So assuming, okay, you know, the bowl's cut, everything else is trimmed up, and the spoon's pretty much done.
Yeah.
Okay. What would be the kind of action point after that?
Well, for this stage, I mean, I would like to sit for another hour and tidy this up, which is the joy of bushcraft, isn't it, really, is doing this bit, you know, that's the lovely, blessed bit. And then it would need to go in a carrier bag, especially on a sunny day. There is a chance that this could just split as the moisture comes out of it very rapidly. The smaller the wood, the faster the moisture will come out of it. So now it's this size, it's quite vulnerable to this piece coming off, the bowl splitting at the end, especially if you left it in the sun or on the dashboard of your car. You get home and the whole lot's gone. And it doesn't always happen, but it very often happens, and it's heartbreaking when it does. So in a bag, in a jiffy bag, zip shut in the dark, or failing that in anything, cling film, under a jumper, anything you can do to just keep it cool for a couple of days whilst it slowly dries out. People put them in paper bags with wood shavings. That works quite well, and people have been known, if they want to keep working on their spoon and they haven't got any cool place to keep it, there's a trick of rubbing it with boiled potato, which apparently seals the starch in the boiled potato, seals the fibres of the wood. I've never done it, I've just heard about it.
And then obviously people can, in terms of sanding, very quickly?
Yeah, sanding, when it's bone dry, you can sand it in, and obviously the bowl will need the most sanding. I mean, you can get it a lot better than this, but start with an 80 or 120 grit, get the whole thing smooth, and then go on to 200 grit, and use good quality sandpaper. It's so worth buying good sandpaper. Don't go down the pound shop and get that yellow stuff. That'll wreck your tools. It doesn't last. Good red oxide sandpaper, or you know, some one of the better quality from a woodworking shop. You'll find they'll last. It lasts for months and months and months. And you sand it until every single facet's gone. I mean, I will sit and cut this until it's pretty smooth, and God. You can scrape them too. But
and finally, treatment in terms of oils and
oil. You can treat it. You can leave it untreated, and it'll change colour every time you use it. which is quite nice because it goes brown eventually. You can treat it with walnut oil from Waitrose or Aldi.
Oh, yeah, you're a posh spoon carver.
Yeah, I was by Best Organic
from
walnut
Waitrose.
oil from Waitrose.
Most of us is Aldi's and Lidl's.
Yeah,
so.
yeah, well, yeah, if you can find it. And you can use linseed oil, raw, not boiled. Boiled linseed oil has chemicals in it. So raw linseed oil, it's an additive for horse feed. So that stuff from the country stores or a horse online horse loving store. And you can put it in a bag, you can put it in a jam jar, you can put it in a Tupperware box. Leave the spoon in it. The longer you leave it in, the more translucent it becomes as it soaks up more oil. But all this is to be done after the spoon is dried, really. And you can also use tongue oil, which is quicker. You rub it on and it dries quicker. Linseed oil kind of does give you an oily spoon until it polymerises, which can take months. I sometimes, if I'm in a hurry, I will nuke my spoon in the microwave for 15 seconds and then let it dry and then let it cool and then do it again, let it cool and do it again. And then I will drop it in the oil for a couple of days and then I will put it back in the microwave, and that kind of boils the oil into the spoon. But I don't know if that's harsh on the fibres of the wood. I've not had one long enough in my possession to see if that has any long-term effect on it.
And finally, after actually using it, I mean, obviously, you don't wash it with.
They can go in the washing up bowl. I wouldn't dishwash them. The heat of a dishwasher will split the spoon. But a spoon's naturally antiseptic anyway, so the trick is to just give it a quick rinse whilst the food's still, wet on it, and not leave it overnight so it hardens. We just put ours in the washing up bowl with whatever, with our Waitrose washing up liquid, or Aldi, depending on our finances.
Yeah. I'm the Aldi bucket next to your one.
Yeah, yeah.
I've got a cheap bucket with Aldi's washing liquid. So.
So yeah, just let it dry. Once it's dry, it's as tough as a piece of wood.
So there you go, guys. A very lengthy tutorial, but it was kind of necessitated because there's so much to cover. As you can imagine, you're literally walking through the entire process will probably take a couple of hours at the very least. But I want to show quite a bit of it because rather than just quickly jumping through one scene to the other, you can actually see a lot of the strokes and movements being done. So Jill, I want to thank you once again.
It's been lovely.
For taking the time. Jill's been an amazing teacher, she really has. And very hospitable, so I've had a great time while being out here. Like I said, if you haven't checked out the other video, which is a very short, coming from Z Outdoors, right, a short video diary of my day workshop. And like I said, I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. Like I said, this is kind of like for a lot of you guys, for most of you guys that are beginners and even some of the intermediates, that want a few tips and suggestions. There's many ways of kind of doing it. This is kind of Jill's way, which is kind of very rugged and getting the job done, but doing a fantastic job at that. And then once again, you can go quite deep into it once you find out whether it's for you or not. So I hope you found that useful. I'm going to put a link to Jill's fan page below the video. Please go and check her out. If you like what you see, then please give her a like on her fan page. And if you've got any comments and suggestions or anything, then please leave them below as always. If you haven't subscribed or liked this video, why won't you like this video? This video's awesome, man. Right? So then please go ahead and do so. So thank you for taking the time to watch this. This is there for your reference. You can go back, time and time again and kind of refer to it. And really, what it comes down to, I'm sure you'd agree, is just going out there and doing it. The stuff you can watch as many videos as you can, but it's not until you go out there, grab a piece of wood, and just start, chopping away and stuff. So, hope you enjoyed that, and thank you for watching. So until the next time, this is Zed from Z Outdoors. Peace out.